Good evening and welcome to the virtual public informational meeting for project number 60-160, which includes the installation of two modern roundabouts at Route 82 and Route 154 in the town of Haddam. My name is Joe Arsenal and I am the project manager. I'm just going to run through some goals we have for tonight's meeting. Shortly, I'll be introducing the entire project team. Then I'll get into a little bit about the virtual platform and more specifically how to participate in the question and answer session that follows a formal presentation. So the formal presentation itself will include discussing the existing conditions, the purpose of the project, what improvements we are proposing. We'll also get into some impacts as well as the cost and schedule. So again, following that formal presentation, we will open up the meeting to comments and questions. During the development of the project, we've coordinated with local public officials. It's been a pleasure working with First Selectman Bob McGarry and other elected officials and employees from the town of Haddam and East Haddam. With that, I'm going to turn it over to First Selectman Bob McGarry, who's going to share some thoughts on the project and provide a brief introduction.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending this information session on the Tylerville Roundabouts. If you've ever come off Route 9 onto the connector and tried to go north on 154 during rush hour, evening rush hour, you know how bad that traffic can be and how much the traffic flow needs to be improved. That's what this project is aimed to do. In addition, it's going to bring other improvements into that area for us. They're going to extend the sidewalks that currently end just south of Saybrook at Haddam, all the way down to the Route 9 connector. They're going to replace that deficient bridge over Clark Creek and enhance the viewing area for those wonderful cascading falls in that area. I'd like to thank DOT and their project team. They have been excellent to work with so far. I'm sure that will continue. Very open communication, a couple of meetings with town officials. They held an information session for the Tylerville merchants a week or two ago, and now this public information session. I found they're very open for input. I'm sure they're interested in your thoughts after this presentation. They have agreed with us to try to do as much night construction on the road work as they can to minimize the impact on traffic. We've also agreed to put in lighting fixtures that match the lighting fixtures we're going to be installing on bridge roads when hopefully next year we do the bridge road sidewalk project. As most of you know, another big project that's going to be going on in Tylerville at the same time is the rehabilitation of the swing bridge. It's going to involve some major closures to the road traffic. It's going to start spring of next year, run till fall of 2024. Obviously, it's going to have a major impact on our merchants in Tylerville. I'd ask that you please support those merchants starting now and through the construction period and beyond as much as you can. They need our support. We need them to be here when all this construction is done. Finally, I'd like to say we do have project information, a webpage on our town website. It lists this and all the other major projects that are ongoing. Please refer to that if you want any up-to-date information on the projects. Again, thank you for attending, and with that, I will turn this over to DOT.
Thank you for that, Selectman McGarry. We appreciate the input and look forward to continued collaboration with you and other Haddam officials as we move forward with the project. Now I'll introduce our project team. To the top left of the screen, we've got Michael Calabrese. He's the manager of the Highway Design Office. Then to the right of him, we have Matt Vale, our principal engineer. Then me, Joe Arsenal. Again, I'm the project manager for the project. On the lower portion of the screen, we've got our two presenters tonight, Joe Jasowitz, the project engineer, and Charles Grillo, the project designer. Then all the way to the right of the screen, we've got Matt Janikopoulos, who is our rights-of-way coordinator, and we'll be providing a brief presentation concerning our property acquisition process later in the presentation. We have three ways for which you can communicate with us during this meeting tonight. One is by email, one is by a phone call-in number, and the other option is to simply use the chat function in the MS Teams live event. The email which you can use is dotproject60-160 roundabouts@ct.gov. The phone call-in number is 860-944-1111, and when you call that number, you'll be able to leave a voicemail. We do ask that you hold all your questions pertaining to the specifics of the project to the end of the meeting, as our presentation may answer those questions. At the end of the meeting, we'll display the email and phone number again, so then you may have them when it's time to enter the question and answer session. During the question and answer session, we will take questions that have come in and post them to the Q&A chat field of the MS Teams presentation. We'll read off the questions and provide answers to the best of our ability. If you're viewing the presentation tonight using MS Teams, you'll be able to turn on the live event Q&A and view the questions by selecting the Featured tab. One more housekeeping item here relating to Title VI and civil rights. We are required under federal regulation to ensure that no one is subject to discrimination or excluded from participation in a project based on their race, color, or national origin. We do encourage you to go take our survey, which can be found here at the top of the screen at the SurveyMonkey address. This location is also available on our project webpage. If you have any additional questions or concerns regarding Title VI or civil rights, you could also view the civil rights flyer available at the address shown here or contact the project team. At this point, I'd like to turn over the presentation to the project engineer, Joe Jaswitz.
Thank you, Joe. My name is Joe Jaswitz. I'm the project engineer at the Department of Transportation. I'm a project engineer assigned to State Project 6160, modern roundabouts at Route 82 and Route 154 in the town of Haddam. Tonight's presentation, I'll be discussing the existing conditions as well as defining the project purpose. I will then turn the presentation over to Charles Grillo, our project designer, who will discuss the proposed improvements, including basic roundabout operations, as well as we'll get into project specifics of each intersection. And then the presentation will be turned over to our rights-of-way coordinator, Matthew Giannakopoulos, who will define the rights-of-way process. And then the presentation will conclude with Charlie discussing the project impacts, cost, and schedule. This project is located on the overlapping portion of Route 82/154, otherwise known as the Saybrook Road. To the east of our project, we have the Connecticut River and the East Haddam Swing Bridge. And to the west, we have Route 9. Our project is going to focus on two main intersections. We refer to them as the northern and southern intersection. The northern intersection is located where Bridge Road intersects Saybrook Road. And the southern intersection is located where the Route 9 connector intersects Saybrook Road. As well as we'll be discussing Bridge 622, which carries Saybrook Road over Clark Creek. In order to perform a traffic analysis, traffic volumes first had to be obtained. Our planning unit at the department was responsible for collecting this data on our various segments of roadway within our project limits. As you can see here in white, we have our existing ADT along each segment of roadway. ADT stands for average daily traffic. As well as you can see in yellow, we have our design year ADT. Design year for this project is 2040. When designing our proposed improvements, we design based off of today's need as well as into the future. You notice that there's a slight increase in traffic volumes that are projected into the future, and that's due to anticipated growth that's expected to occur within the area. Also, we look at traffic speeds throughout the corridor. As you can see here on the placards, we have our posted speed limits on our various approaches. As well as in red, you can see our 85th percentile speeds. 85th percentile is merely 85% of vehicles will travel at or below that speed. It's also important to note that the 85th percentile speed is used as our design speed for our roadway geometrics when designing our roads. So for example, on the Route 9 connector, we have a posted speed of 50 miles per hour. However, the 85th percentile is 60. Some areas of interest within the project area include the Tylerville Business District at the northern intersection, Eagles Landing to the east, as well as a Saybrook Assisted Living Facility to the north. Also, the East Haddam Swing Bridge is located 2/3 of a mile from the northern intersection. Saybrook Road and Bridge Road are a part of the State On-Road Bike Work Network. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the northern intersection. The northern intersection is currently a signalized intersection. The existing equipment that is currently out there today is 27 years old. Typical service life is around 20 years, at which point in time we see additional maintenance and upkeep is required in order to maintain a state of good repair for the signal equipment. Also, I'd like to make note and draw attention to the minimal pedestrian accommodations that are currently provided at this intersection. Here's a plan view of the northern signalized intersection. We have single lane approaches on all approaches. However, Saybrook Road are considered high-speed approaches. We have no dedicated turn lane that exists at the intersection, as well as we have substandard bypass lanes where vehicles are using the processed aggregate off the edge of road in order to make bypass maneuvers around vehicles that are trying to turn left onto Bridge Road. We have poor access control due to the number of driveways that are in close proximity to the intersection footprint. And finally, we have inadequate pedestrian facilities. We have narrow shoulders where it's are conducive to bike travel. We don't have any sidewalks that are prevalent here, nor do we have any dedicated crosswalks. Moving on to the southern intersection. The Route 9 connector is a stop-controlled approach. It is considered functionally deficient due to the large queues and backs up that form along that approach. Saybrook Road is considered a high-speed free-flow facility. Here's a plan view of the southern stop-controlled intersection. We have single-lane approaches on all approaches. All are considered high-speed. We currently have no dedicated turn lanes that exist here, as well as we also still have substandard bypass lanes. And we have poor intersection geometry that is created by the skew of the Route 9 connector as it intersects Saybrook Road. We have inadequate pedestrian facilities. There's no sidewalks, nor are there any crosswalks that are present here. And finally, we have non-standard parking areas. Currently, these two pull-off areas are used by vehicles that are trying to access the Clark Creek Cascades. The department recognizes this natural feature that is in existence at the southern intersection, and we plan to incorporate parking into our proposed design, which we'll explain further on in our presentation. Predominant turning movements that exist within our project area consist of in the AM vehicle traveling from destinations east through our project limits in order to access Route 9. In the PM, we have the opposite movement where vehicles are traveling from Route 9 through our project limits in order to access destinations east via the East Haddam Swing Bridge. As a part of the department's initial review, we look at crashes that are occurring within our project limits. We gather crash data over a course of a 3-year period. From that data, we develop crash diagrams to show the location, type, quantity, and the severity of those crashes. Once a crash diagram is developed, we analyze them for patterns. Over a course of a 3-year period at the northern intersection, we saw a total of 12 crashes resulting in 4 injuries. Those crash types consist of angle, rear ends, and side swipes. While there isn't many crashes that are occurring here today that is anything abnormal, we would like to note that there was a one angle type crash that occurred here. While it's a low frequency event that is occurring here, they tend to have high severity, and that is due to high vehicle speeds that are seen on Saybrook Road throughout our project area. Over the course of that same 3-year period, there was a total of 21 crashes resulting in 6 injuries that occurred at the southern intersection. There's 2 main prevalent crash types that are occurring here. The first being rear ends that are occurring on the Route 9 connector. This can be contributed to the stop control on the high-speed approach, as well as the high traffic volumes that are seen along that segment of roadway. The second are these angle type crashes that are occurring within the intersection. This can be contributed to Saybrook Road being a high-speed, free-flow facility, as well as driver expectations on a vehicle trying to depart the Route 9 connector. If a vehicle is traveling southbound based off of traffic turning volumes, 80% of them are trying to access the Route 9 connector, whereas 20% of them are trying to continue on a through movement. Based off of driver expectation of a vehicle trying to depart the Route 9 connector to make a turning maneuver onto Saybrook Road, they're envisioning vehicles to make a turn onto the connector. However, sometimes they're continuing on a through movement, which creates a conflict point leading to a number of angle crashes, which is prevalent here. Based on those traffic volumes that were obtained, our traffic engineering unit performed a traffic analysis at each intersection. Here you can see at the northern intersection, we have our AM and PM queue lengths along with respective delay times. Queue length is just merely a way to describe how much backup is forming along each approach. So, for example, on Bridge Road in the AM, we're seeing about 375 feet worth of backup and 22 seconds worth of delay. However, in the PM, we're seeing 290 feet worth of backup and 21 seconds worth of delay forming on Saybrook Road. What we are showing here are kind of the worst case scenarios based off of peak turning movements, otherwise known as the 95th percentile. Based off of those two backups that are forming on those two approaches, we're seeing a level of service of C. Level of service is merely a qualitative term used to describe how an intersection and its approaches are performing based off of speed, delay, congestion, etc. It is rated on a letter rating scale, A being the best, F being the worst. So at the level of service of C, we're seeing moderate congestion today. Here are the queue lengths at the southern intersection. As you can see here, Saybrook Road has minimal backups and delays that are forming on those approaches, and that's due to it being a free flow facility. However, on the Route 9 connector in the AM, we're seeing 100 feet worth of backup and 27 seconds worth of delay. And in the PM, we're seeing 600 feet worth of backup and 182 seconds, a little over 3 minutes worth of delay. With those two queue links that are forming, we're seeing a level of service of D in the AM, and in the PM, we're seeing a level of service of F. This level of service of F is concerning due to the fact of how long it takes to process vehicles along that section of roadway. Immediately north of the southern intersection, we have Bridge 622, which carries Saybrook Road over Clark Creek. It was built in 1931. It's a concrete arch and concrete slab hybrid structure. It's considered functionally obsolete and hydraulically inadequate based off of our hydraulic analysis. The most recent structural evaluation gave this structure a 4 out of 9. Based off the condition and age of this structure, the replacement of this bridge was added to the scope of this project. Project purpose can be broken down in 3 separate areas. We like to refer to them as project goals. First, we want to increase safety by reducing the vehicle speeds throughout the corridor, as well as the frequency and crash severity that they're experiencing. As well as we also want to increase sidewalk connectivity. Second, we want to improve traffic operation by reducing vehicle backups and the delays that they're experiencing. And finally, we want to replace Bridge 622 as a part of this project. I will now turn it over to Charlie, who will talk about the proposed improvements.
All right, thanks, Joe. My name's Charles Grillo, and I am the project designer assigned to 6160. And at this time, I'm going to be talking to you about the proposed project improvements. So based on those existing conditions and the project goals that were just previously discussed, the department determined that the preferred alternative for both the northern and southern intersection was going to be the modern roundabout. So first thing I'm going to cover are some basic roundabout information, such as how they operate, their design elements, and some general benefits. After that, I'll get into some more project-specific information related to design considerations for both the northern and southern roundabout and a traffic analysis for both of those. And finally, I'll wrap up with a description of the project impacts, schedule, and cost. All right. The first thing we're going to talk about is the basic operations of a modern roundabout. So vehicles approaching a roundabout need to slow down to about 15 to 20 miles an hour before they enter the roundabout. Vehicles approaching the roundabout also have to yield to vehicles that are already inside of the circulatory roadway. Once a vehicle enters the circulatory roadway, they have the right of way and don't have to yield or stop at that point. And when a vehicle wants to exit the roundabout, they simply engage the right-hand turn signal and then exit the roundabout. Bicyclists can enter the roundabout with traffic, meaning they'll take a lane and then they can traverse through the intersection in that fashion. Or if they're uncomfortable with that, they can dismount and then they can use the sidewalks and crosswalks to get to the intersection. Pedestrians will obviously be using the sidewalks and they will be crossing at the designated crosswalks. Next thing I want to talk about are some basic design elements that are common for all modern roundabouts. So I'm just going to use the southern roundabout to describe these. And the first element I'm going to talk about are the splitter islands. Splitter islands are these raised median structures. They are typically granite curbing with a stamped concrete finish, as you can see in the photo there. And they're designed to channelize traffic and induce curvature. So this is really important because we need to safely and slowly bring vehicles' speeds down before they enter the roundabout. So taking like the Route 9 connector, for example, where speeds are upwards of 50 or 60 miles an hour, we have these successively tighter curves on that approach that physically slow the car down so it can enter the roundabout at that safe 15 to 20 miles an hour. So the splitter islands help direct the cars through those curves and slow them down. Next design element we're going to talk about are the truck aprons. Truck aprons are designed to accommodate tractor-trailer turning movements through the intersection. So as you can see in the photo, the cab of the truck is designed to stay on the circulatory roadway, but the back end trailer there can track over the truck apron as that truck is making a turn. So the truck aprons are typically granite curbing with stamped concrete finish, but these are mountable, so they have a lower profile than the splitter islands, and they're designed so that the truck can mount it, but it would be uncomfortable for a passenger car to drive over top of that. All right, next element we're going to talk about are the center islands. Center islands are designed to alert drivers that they're approaching an intersection by providing a visual break in the roadway. So this has a proven traffic calming effect, so vehicles will slow down when they see that center island. Center islands also can be used as gateway treatment to community, so you can plant landscapings and install a sign, sort of like what we see in the photo there. All right, last design element to talk about are the sidewalks. Sidewalks are required to direct pedestrians to the safe roadway crossings. So we want them crossing at designated crosswalks using that pedestrian refuge area in the splitter island, as you can see in the photo. And what we don't want to see are any pedestrians crossing in the truck apron or center island. So it's very important that we direct pedestrians to those safe roadway crossings. And then also, the sidewalks are designed to provide safe passage for inexperienced bikers. So the bikers need to be able to dismount and then walk through the intersection if they're uncomfortable with riding through the intersection with traffic. Now I want to talk about some of the general safety benefits of modern roundabouts. So as you can see here, I got some national statistics that were gathered by the Federal Highway Administration and the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. And what this is it's showing a reduction in crashes when a signalized intersection was converted to a roundabout. So nationally, they're seeing a 37% reduction in overall collisions and a 75% reduction in collisions that result in injuries. In Connecticut, we did our own study of 5 intersections we converted to modern roundabouts, and we saw slightly better numbers than the national averages. As you can see, we have almost a 50% reduction in crashes and over 80% reduction in severe crashes. And yeah, the last thing I want to draw your attention to is that 90% reduction in fatal crashes. So roundabouts are a proven safety measure that are extremely effective. So roundabouts achieve their safety benefits in two main ways. First one we're going to talk about is the fact that they reduce conflict points. Now, conflict points are all the opportunities that two cars have to collide with each other at any given intersection. So what you will notice is roundabouts eliminate all the crossing type conflict points. And the crossing conflict points are the most severe. They're the ones that result in either T-bone or head-on type crashes. And what a roundabout is left with are just those diverging and merging conflict points, which generally result in side swipes or rear ends, which are the lesser severe type of crashes. So the second major safety benefit of a roundabout is it comes from the fact that they reduce vehicle speeds. So inside the circulatory roadway, as I mentioned before, vehicles are only moving 15 to 20 miles an hour. But if you compare that to a signalized intersection, where if a vehicle has a green light, they can be moving 35 upwards of 50 miles an hour. So again, with that reduction in speed, we see a pretty significant increase in safety and survivability of crashes. So this statistic here is just showing a pedestrian versus vehicle type crashes. And again, with the reduction in speed, we see that reduction of about 90% in the rate of fatalities. So because of this, roundabouts have been increasing in popularity over the years. In the United States, you can see in the 1990s, there was just a few roundabouts in California and Nevada. But 30 years later, you can see now we have over 7,000 roundabouts in the United States. And in Connecticut, we're also trending towards installing more roundabouts. Currently, we have 13 that are installed and operational, and we have another 14 in design, planning, or construction. Now we'll discuss some project-specific design considerations that went into the design of the northern and southern roundabouts. And we'll start off with the northern roundabout. So the first design consideration we're going to talk about is a roundabout footprint. So there are a lot of businesses within very close proximity to this intersection, and we want to reduce the impacts to those businesses by reducing the footprint of the roundabout as much as we could. So the first thing we did was propose this 115-foot inscribed circular diameter, which is a little bit on the smaller side for a single lane roundabout, but we're able to get that in. And then we also wound up shifting the roundabout slightly to the west. There was a large hill to the west of the intersection, but we're proposing to install a retaining wall to help limit the impacts of the cut slopes in that area. Next design consideration to talk about is access control. So we wanted all vehicles to be able to make left and right hand turns out of all the driveways within the project area. So we're proposing a flush splitter island be installed along the Sidbrook Road southbound approach so that vehicles can make left and right hand turns out of the mobile gas station there. And the other access control issue was we did have a lot of driveways within close proximity to the intersection. So we are proposing to close one driveway and relocate another slightly at the Tylerville Village Plaza. Sidewalk connectivity was a big consideration at the northern intersection. We wanted to be able to tie into existing sidewalk to the north of our project that went to the assisted living facility. And then we also wanted to tie into project 6162, which is proposing to build sidewalk from Eagles Landing along Bridge Road to this intersection. So we're also going to be tying into the sidewalk that is constructed under that project. The final design consideration to talk about was the closure of Old Chester Road. So Old Chester Road is a 0.2 mile long dead end road. Sees less than 100 vehicles per day. And the department would like to close this road as part of the project. It was interfering with the operation of the intersection. Thought it might lead to some driver confusion, and we just thought removing it would make a safer intersection overall. So We started discussing this with the town, and we're hoping to move forward with the closure as part of the project. It's no means a finalized thing, but just something we'd like to see done. Next, we're going to talk about some design considerations that went into the southern roundabout. So, yeah, the first thing you can see is that the southern roundabout has a 130-foot inscribed circular diameter that is more typical for single-lane roundabouts. Just want to point that out. But yeah, the first design consideration we're going to talk about are the high-speed approaches. So because we have vehicle speeds of 50 or 60 miles an hour approaching this intersection on all legs, you're going to see these longer splitter islands, which are required to safely slow the vehicles down before they enter the roundabout. Next design consideration to talk about is replacement of Bridge 622. So we're proposing to relocate this bridge upstream on Clark Creek. We're doing this so that we can build this bridge entirely offline, meaning we can construct it while still maintaining traffic on the existing bridge. Also, when we relocated that bridge upstream, it helped with the curvature we wanted to induce to help slow vehicles down before they enter the roundabout on that leg. Bike connectivity was a consideration for this intersection. Although there are, obviously not as much pedestrian and foot traffic here, Saybrook Road is part of the state on-road bike network. So because of that, we really want to make sure we provided those sidewalks so inexperienced bikers can dismount and walk through the intersection. The next consideration was the Clark Creek Cascades. So we recognize that this is a draw for the public and local residents. So we wanted to incorporate this into design. So there's a possibility of us installing a viewing area of some sort in the location shown there. We're going to discuss this with the town and sort of try to figure out something that they would like to see installed there. And then in addition to that, we were hoping to install some official parking areas and kind of get rid of those dirt pull-offs. So we'll install the parking, and then people can either use the sidewalk system or a trail system to access the Cascades. So none of that's finalized yet, but we're talking with the town, and hopefully we're going to be incorporating this into design in the near future. So next we're going to talk about the 2040 queue lengths and delays at the northern and southern intersections. So queue lengths, again, are just the backup we were expecting to see, and 2040 is the design year, so we're going to be using those projected future traffic volumes when we're analyzing these intersections at this point. So we're going to be comparing the no build and the roundabouts. And for the northern intersection, the no build is the existing single lane approach signalized intersection. So in the AM peak hour, you can see that you have that considerable backup on Bridge Road as vehicles are crossing Swing Bridge and trying to head over to Route 9. And here is the roundabout handling those exact same traffic volumes. So as you can see on that Bridge Road leg, the roundabout's handling traffic about 3 times more efficiently. Next, we'll look at the PM peak hour. So in the PM, we have the larger backup on Saybrook Road northbound as cars are coming from Route 9 and then trying to turn right and head over the Swing Bridge. So as you can see, the roundabout handles traffic better than the signalized intersection. Not as big of an improvement there, but still handling it better. So this is something our traffic unit put together, and this is a visualization using the Vism software. And what I'm going to show you is that PM peak hour that we just discussed, and basically how the no build signalized intersection handles the traffic versus the roundabout. So I just want to point out, obviously there's that backup on Saybrook Road northbound for both of these intersections. But as you can see, the roundabout just is constantly clearing its backup. It has that rolling delay. So unlike the signalized intersection where cars are just at a standstill when they have red light, the roundabout just is constantly clearing traffic. And the other thing I want to draw your attention to is if you look at the Bridge Road approach and the Saybrook Road southbound, you'll notice that at the roundabout, there is really no backup there. Traffic is just constantly getting cleared through. Where at the signalized intersection, because we have to provide a long green time to clear that Saybrook Road northbound traffic queue, you see these backups that form on those other legs as they're sitting at their red light. So it's just something the roundabout doesn't have to deal with. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of show this visualization and maybe help clarify how these two intersections handle the same type of traffic volumes. Right, now we can talk about the southern roundabout. So AMQ lengths here. No build is stop controlled on the Route 9 connector. So you can see a backup from that. And then again, Saybrook Road is free flowing, so there is no backups or delays there. And you can see how the roundabout handles that. Obviously, there's a larger backup on Saybrook Road because you're going from free flow in the existing condition to the yield control with the roundabout. So there will be a little bit of an increase of backup there. But one thing I want to draw your attention to is the fact that you can see that the backup for the roundabout and the signalized intersection are both 180 feet. But you can see how the delay, the roundabout basically clears its backup about, it looks like almost 5 times faster than the stop sign can. So I just want to draw your attention to that. Looking at the PM peak backup, you can see that the Route 9 connector with the stop control just really isn't acceptable with nearly 1,000-foot backup and 6 minutes of delay. Just something that really needs to be addressed. And these are the backups and delays for the roundabout. So considerably better than the existing stop controlled intersection. Before we move on, I just want to take a moment and discuss the East Haddam Swing Bridge, which was brought to the department's attention by the town and numerous residents as a source of concern. Essentially, the problem being when the East Haddam Swing Bridge is in the open position, traffic can back up on Bridge Road all the way to the intersection with Saybrook Road, and sometimes even back up along Saybrook Road to the intersection with the Route 9 connector. So the department recognizes this issue, and while unfortunately we can't really do a whole lot to address that with the intersection improvements proposed on 6160, I did want to make everyone aware that there is another project that is currently being proposed, Project 40141, which is going to rehabilitate the swing bridge and improve the mechanics of it. So with the completion of that project, the department is anticipating to see a swing cycle time reduction of about 20%. So with that reduction in the cycle time, you can expect to see up to 1,000-foot reduction in the backups on Bridge Road. And essentially, with the reduction in backups and the improved operations of the swing bridge, we're hoping to see a reduction in occurrences of the backups on Bridge Road reaching the northern intersection. All right, now we're going to start our conversation about the project impacts, and we're going to begin with the rights-of-way impacts. So at the northern intersection, there are a lot of businesses within close proximity to that intersection, and that is where we're going to see the majority of our rights-of-way impacts. So the department is anticipating partial acquisitions of 5 properties, and an additional 10 properties are going to require easements or rights in that location. At the southern intersection, rights-of-way impacts are not as big a problem or a concern, so we only anticipate 1 property requiring a right or an easement there. So with us in the meeting today, we have Matt Giannakopoulos, who works for the department in the rights-of-way unit, and he is going to discuss the rights-of-way process in a little bit more detail at this point. So I'm going to hand the presentation over to him now.
Thank you, Charlie. I am Matt Giannakopoulos, and I am a right-of-way coordinator with the Department's Division of Rights-of-Way. It is our office's responsibility to acquire the property rights needed for transportation projects. The proposed project design requires the acquisition of property rights, so I'd like to give a brief overview of the Department's right-of-way acquisition process. Please keep in mind, though, that the specific impacts are still being fine-tuned and may change as the design progresses. Any property rights that will be acquired in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes Sections 13A-73 and 13A-98E. And whenever there is federal money used in any phase of a project, the department must adhere to the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Properties Acquisition Policies Act of 1970 as amended. Once the design has moved to the point where we are ready to begin the acquisition process, each affected property owner will receive a formal letter of intent to acquire from our office, along with a property map which depicts the exact property rights to be acquired. At that point, our office will determine the fair market value of those property rights and use that value to establish an offer of just compensation. The offer will be sent out to the owner in writing, and a right-of-way agent will be available to meet with the property owners and explain the project, go over the specific impacts to the property, and explain how the state developed its offer. The property owner will have a reasonable time to consider the state's offer and enter into negotiations. If an agreement is reached, the state will prepare all the necessary paperwork and record the deed and the property map on the town land records. However, if negotiations reach an impasse, in order to keep everything on schedule, the department may acquire the necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain. In that event, the state files a notice of condemnation in the Superior Court along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. The property owner will have 6 months from that date to appeal for a reassessment of the damages if they thought the state's offer was inadequate. Now, whether or not the owner chooses to use their right to appeal, the money that was deposited in the court is available to be withdrawn by the owner at any time, subject to the discretion of the Superior Court. I know sometimes people think when they hear eminent domain that it means the state just takes their property for $1, but that's not the case. The owners are entitled to at least the amount of the state's offer, and the state only takes title to the property rights that are needed for the project. I'll be happy to answer any questions about the right-of-way acquisition process during the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting, but in the meantime, I'm going to hand it back to Charlie to conclude the presentation.
Thank you. So moving on, we're going to talk about some environmental impacts of the project. Really not a whole lot to report here. There are no endangered species located within the project area, which is good. No historical properties of any concern. And also we consulted with the local tribal nations and they expressed no concern with the project. We're requiring a number of permits for the relocation of Bridge 622, which is pretty standard. Department's going to do our best to limit wetland impacts and restore any disturbed areas. All right, construction considerations. So this is an important one. So we're going to be maintaining two-way traffic during AM and PM peak hours. We're going to be constructing as much as project offline as possible. So that includes Bridge 622 and also the retaining wall at the northern intersection. So hopefully all that work will be done without impacting traffic patterns. We will be requiring some traffic shifts during construction, but we're definitely going to be maintaining all driveway access through the construction process. We will probably be utilizing alternating one way with flaggers during off-peak hours, but the department's going to recommend that as much of that work as possible can be done during nighttime to limit impacts to businesses and residents. Adjacent projects. So the department is aware that there are a number of projects within the area that are going to be happening around about the same time as our project 6160. So as you can see, we have our project schedule highlighted in yellow at the top. Each one of those blocks represents a 3-month period. And yeah, project 141, the rehabilitation of the swing bridge, is going to be happening concurrent with our project. And project 6162, the Bridge Road Sidewalk project is going to be happening ahead of our project. So we've begun coordinating already with those designers, and we're going to make sure that the construction process is as smooth as possible. So last thing I'm going to talk about is the project cost and schedule. Construction cost is going to be about 7.3 million. Of that, 80% is going to be federal, 20% is from the state. We're expecting to complete our design in the fall of 2022, starting construction in the spring of 2023, and then we'll be wrapping construction in the fall of 2024. So this concludes the formal presentation of Project 6160. And at this time, we're going to be moving into the question and answer phase of tonight's meeting. So I just want to let you all know that there are a number of ways that you can submit your questions to the design team. Right now, you can enter your questions into the MS Team chat window if you're present at the live event. We are also accepting questions via the project email. So that would be dotproject60-160@ct.gov. You can also phone in your questions to the project voicemail. So the number for that is 860-944-1111. So yep, all those questions, just send them in. We're going to be posting them into the Q&A chat window, and then we'll be answering them live right now. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, and I'm going to be handing this over to Joe Arsenal now.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. So yeah, as we sit here and wait for some questions and comments to come in, I'd just like to highlight a few items on this this slide here. So the very top line, oh, there it is. The very top line is the project webpage. So you can enter in that long address there, or I actually found it simpler if you just Google. You could Google DOT Haddam or DOT Haddam 60-160. And one of the first results that comes up should be that web page. And that web page pretty much has all the information you would need to get a hold of us. It does have the project email on there. Also has a color plan available. And in the coming days, we'll actually have a recorded video of this entire presentation posted up there, so you can access that there. With that, there will be a YouTube video. And what's nice about that is that it'll actually include closed captioning, and you'll be able to translate it to other languages. So it's a nice feature. So looks like we just got a question in, our first question. And it is, could you consider reducing the speed limit between the two roundabouts to support the speed reduction in the area? Yeah, and I could take that question. I think that's something we could definitely look into. That requires involvement of our traffic office at the DOT, so we can certainly coordinate with them and see if it would be appropriate to indeed lower that speed limit. There is a decent amount of distance between the two roundabouts, so you know, if people were to get up to the speed limit somewhere in there, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But you know, in the nature of trying to keep speeds down, we could certainly look into that. Thank you for the comment. Okay, and I'd just like to point out again, you know, the project email we've got up here, DOTPROJECT 60-160@ct.gov. And again, if you'd like to call in a question, it's 860-944-1111. And probably the easiest way to get questions into us is just simply using that MS Teams chat. So enter your questions right into that chat, and we'll publish them and get to them as soon as we can. I'd just like to add, you know, another point is, you know, we are in the preliminary stages of this design, so we are here to solicit your comments and your input and accommodate you as best we can. Okay, anyone have any other questions? Please get your questions in if you have any. And again, just like to remind you that we will have a Q&A comment period that will last until June 22nd. And that really isn't a hard date. If you have some questions or comments after that date, please get them in and we'll address them as best we can. And the best way to get those in would be simply using the project email that we've got shown up here. Okay, looks like we're getting another question in here. So the question is, will trucks be able to make it through the roundabouts? Right now they struggle to make the left from the highway. So maybe I could have Charlie, can you maybe pull up one of the slides showing one of the roundabouts? And actually, I'll turn this one over to Joe Jazz. Maybe you could speak a little bit more about how trucks navigate through the roundabout.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. As Charlie kind of talked about earlier in the roundabouts, like basic operations, when we look at truck turning movements, we design them based off of a certain type of design vehicle. So in this case, it's a tractor trailer, as was shown in that picture. And we design our truck apron to accommodate the cab that is tracking on the circulatory roadway, but the trailer itself actually tracks on the truck apron. So it's designed to traverse through the circulatory roadway in that type of fashion. In regards to like the oversteering, they're kind of designed that based off of, we use software that has a turning analysis based off of industry standards that goes into that, so that we make sure that we're not over tracking, hopping curbs, minimizing that to the best of our ability based off of what the software is showing for us.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Looks like we just got another question in. The question is, had the DOT completed thorough due diligence at peak traffic with a bridge opening scenario? It appears that the traffic studies conducted to justify this $7.3 million project were all conducted at less than realistic conditions, i.e. pandemic, rainy, cool, Monday, etc. So I could start off with a little bit about this. I actually believe our traffic data was collected during 2017, and I believe we collected it during the summertime and also like off-season times. Joe Jaswitz, can you confirm that?
Yeah, that's correct. When we originally collected our traffic data was during the spring time frame, but we were concerned about seeing an increase in vehicle traffic due to summer, due to the tourist industry. So we also collected midday summertime traffic volumes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so what you might be referring to is we do have traffic volumes that we do post online. So some of those were conducted potentially during the pandemic and these other situations you're talking about, but the traffic data we're using for this was taken during those times. And again, we do project that data out. We basically use a conservative method of, assuming some amount of growth in the area. So when we look at like the average daily traffic, what we're actually designing for is actually an increase of over, I think for this project, it was a decent amount, over 10% of what we actually collected for data. So we are checking our design against those higher values. And with that, we're pretty confident with our analysis that the roundabout will function well. And yeah, again, as far as issues with the bridge opening, it's really a problem, regardless of what we do out there. I think there's some minor benefits associated with the roundabout. You do get the benefit with the roundabout of that traffic being able to clear out quicker when it is backed up through the intersection. So that is one minor positive. But again, we recognize that regardless of what type of intersection you have there, having traffic back up due to the bridge opening is going to cause gridlock. It's going to cause issues and delays at that intersection. And outside of eliminating the intersection altogether, which we don't see as a feasible option, we really feel the roundabout is the best way to go. Thank you for the question. Okay, and looks like we just got another question in. that says, what type of structures can be built in the middle of the circle? So we tend to leave that open to the town if they would like to put a sign in there, some plantings. We kind of leave that up to their discretion of what they would want to put in there. It is an opportunity to kind of create some kind of gateway features. And this is kind of a gateway area, so it's definitely an opportunity to put something decorative in the middle of that roundabout. And the next question we have is, will you be using native plants when you landscape? So yeah, that's something that our landscape design unit does commonly. In this particular situation, we recognize that there is some local gardening clubs, so we'd also coordinate with those groups to see if they had any specific wants for any kind of plants in the middle of the roundabout. But yeah, we typically stick to native, non-invasive type plants anytime we're putting any plantings in as part of a project. Okay, next question. The next question is, how about just a stoplight in the area of the proposed southern roundabout? Seems cheaper than relocating a bridge and developing all the property. I'm actually going to pass that one off to Joe Jazz. I think he can speak a little better about that. Joe Jazz, can you take that one? All right, I'm not hearing anything from Joe, so I can handle that. So we did analyze a stop. I guess you're talking about a signalized intersection there. I'm assuming. So we did analyze a signalized intersection as an option at the southern roundabout, and it simply did not provide the congestion relief that a roundabout did. And in addition to that, it doesn't provide the safety benefits of a roundabout. So we basically discounted that as a feasible option to satisfy the purpose and need of our project. And as far as the bridge goes, the bridge is something that needs to be replaced regardless of the intersection type. The bridge, I think, is almost 90 years old at this point. It's becoming functionally obsolete. It's not hydraulically adequate. So the bridge is something we have to address and replace regardless of what type of intersection improvement we do. Next question reads, the Middlesex Chamber would like to play a constructive role in the process. Is DOT willing to participate in a standing chamber committee, which will include the contractor and local stakeholders, including businesses? We would like to have the committee be charged with minimizing the economic impact resulting from all the projects in the area. This model has worked well in the area surrounding the Aragoni Bridge. So yeah, I mean, that seems very reasonable. We are very willing to participate in any kind of committees that anyone would have us. We'd like to be as accommodating as we possibly can, and we recognize that with all the construction going on in the area, there is going to be a big hurt to some of the businesses out there. So anything we could do to help accommodate them, we're willing to get involved. Okay, next question. The reason for this question is to ensure that there will be an actual improvement at all points of entry during a bridge opening event. And that's all it says. So I'm not totally clear on the question here. We might need to have an offline discussion about that, but I guess I will stress that the purpose and need of this project isn't really to address the issues associated with the bridge openings events. Like I said earlier, we don't really have an option of eliminating the intersection. There may be some slight improvements as far as the intersection clearing out with the roundabout. But we did mention earlier that there will be that reduction in bridge cycle times once that bridge project is completed. So because they're upgrading the mechanical features of that bridge, it will be able to open and close about 20% faster. Right now, the average open and close time is typically around 10 minutes, and that's going to be able to be reduced to about 7 to 8 minutes. So that should help minimize the amount of times at least the traffic does back up to the intersection and does back up to entry points like businesses. So that is one benefit of that swing bridge project. So the next question we have is, when were bridge opening scenarios tested with the roundabout scenario? So really, unfortunately, something that hasn't been done is any substantial studies studying what happens when backups go through a roundabout or other types of intersections. We do know that they fail to operate effectively. So basically, what we do know is that the traffic will occasionally back up through the roundabout as it does through the intersection today. And what we do know is that because it's a roundabout, it will clear out better. It won't have those red lights anymore, continuing to hold traffic up when it starts to clear out. But other than that, there really isn't, we actually tried to discuss this concern with one of FHWA's, which is the Federal Highway Administration, one of their experts on roundabouts. And the only example they could really provide for us was situations where there are railroad tracks close to roundabouts. And this has happened, in a few locations throughout the country. And when the railroad gets closed to traffic because the trains are going through, it does occasionally back up through those roundabouts. And what they found is that they do clear out pretty well. So we're kind of basing it on our assumptions on that. Next question we have is, this project will solve major operational problems at the intersections without the need for traffic signals. Nice work. Cost seems appropriate given 2 roundabouts, roadway work, and a new bridge. Thanks for the comment. We appreciate it. Another comment we got in here from the phone line was, has anybody come to the project site at night to physically see how the traffic operates, flows at night? Has DOT considered configuring the roadway to function as a 4-lane highway? I'm concerned that people will not know how to navigate a roundabout, leading to more dangerous conditions. I'm not sure exactly when the traffic volumes were taken, if they were taken at night. I'm gonna pass this over to Joe Jazz. Joe, do you know anything about that? I believe they are taken for a 24-hour period of time.
Yeah. So our planning unit collected those traffic volumes, and they used a sub-consultant called MyoVision, and they look at over a course of a 24-hour period. So while those numbers that our analysis are showing based off of the peak hour, usually during that rush hour time frame, we are looking at all hours of the day and making sure that we're accommodating all types of vehicles that are going throughout our corridor, those traffic volumes and whatnot.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and as far as reconfiguring the roadway to a 4-lane highway, that would probably have some pretty significant impacts. We already have some minor impacts and some decent takes we have at the northern intersection, and we're trying to find the right balance between widening out the state right of way and in satisfying the needs of the project. So we're not really looking at widening things out that much, and a lot of times when you go to like a 4-lane facility, you do increase speeds. And one of our goals for this project is actually lowering speeds, making it more pedestrian friendly. So we're not really considering doing a 4-lane highway. And then the concern about as far as people negotiating a roundabout, yeah, there's always concerns with people learning a roundabout. It is going to be a new thing. Sometimes that's a help. It helps people pay more attention. They can't be as lax with their driving behavior as they can with, say, a signal. They kind of have to pay attention to what's going on. And yeah, sometimes there's just a bit of a learning curve there. We've found at most of these roundabouts we've installed, or all of them, that people do learn how to navigate them. We've seen reduction in accidents, and people tend to figure it out. All right, next question we have. Can there be solid structures that don't break away, like a stone wall or small building in the circle? Yeah, I believe there can be. I think we've had other roundabouts in the state where there's been, certain treatments specific to the area. Certainly, we don't expect, we want to deter people from driving through the roundabout. So anything significant that we could put in the middle of it to deter that and show that there's something there tends to slow people down. So we would consider certain things, certainly. Okay, our next question is from the phone line. Will vehicles traveling northbound on Route 154 be able to travel through the roundabout during a bridge opening?
So I guess the answer to that question is, they will be able to until that traffic backs up through the intersection. Once that traffic backs up through the intersection, that intersection will be blocked up. That might be a minor benefit of the current signalized configuration, simply because you do have a little bit of storage there. So for vehicles making a right-hand turn onto Bridge Road during a backup, they can kind of stack up a bit there in the shoulder. But at a certain point, those vehicles will even block the through movement. So you do get a little bit of storage with that signalized intersection. But again, I will counter that by saying, with the roundabout, you do get the benefit of the traffic clearing out faster. So, neither one is perfect for a situation where you have traffic backing up through it. But again, we don't see a big downside with the roundabout. Okay, next question we have is, can you please compare the diameter of the proposed northern roundabout, 115 feet, to the roundabout at the intersection of routes 80 and 81, which in my opinion is kind of small and causes unnecessary stoppages? Are you proposing closing Old Chester Road and displacing all residents, or opening a new access to this road? Okay, so for the first part of the question, I'm actually not. Okay, looks like we've got that roundabout up on the screen right now. I'm not sure, Charlie or Joe Jazwitz, are you familiar with that? Okay, looks like we measured it, and looks like we have a diameter of about 150 feet. So it is a bit larger than the roundabout we have. Of course, this is a 4-leg roundabout, and it has a pretty heavy skew. So on those tight corners, you probably do have a pretty tight turn to make, going from like Clinton Road to Route 81. We don't really have that situation on our project because it's mostly 90-degree angles that the roads are coming in at. So that might be part of the problem there. I imagine those are pretty tight turns to make, and that looks like that's why they do have what appears to be an outside truck apron to track over on those tight curves. And then to the second point of your question, we are looking at closing Old Chester Road. Currently, all the property owners on Old Chester Road have access to Route 154 by other means. So we wouldn't be displacing anyone on there, and anyone that still had access, we would maintain that access. We would be obligated to maintain some kind of access to Old Chester Road. But we do feel it would be the best option as far as making that roundabout simple and not having that 4th leg kind of intersecting it. We are not considering opening a new access road at this point, although it is possible that we could run a new access road over from Route 154 further south to that area if there was a need. So we just got another question in that says, have you factored in all the new apartments proposed? And no, I don't believe we're familiar with any new apartments. Maybe we could get some further information from the town about that and make sure we are accommodating any additional traffic volumes that we would be getting from those. So yeah, thank you for the comment, and we'll coordinate with the town on that and make sure we're addressing that. Again, we'll give some time for any more comments or questions to come in. Again, use the MS chat window to get those in, or the project email or the voicemail shown here. All right, looks like we've got another question in. Well, maybe it's a comment. It says, I live right in the project area. When the bridge is open for extended period of time, you can't get through the intersections now. I don't see much difference with the roundabouts. And that's kind of like where we're coming from. The bridge isn't going away. It will be improved, but at the end of the day, we can't really eliminate that intersection. And you're going to have to deal with those backups. Hopefully they will be reduced with the maintenance improvements with the bridge. All right, our next question is, how will the comments and questions from this virtual meeting affect the project proposal? So basically what we'll do following this meeting is we'll go over all the comments and questions that came in. We'll discuss those internally with our management, and then we'll discuss them all with the Haddam town officials, and we'll make decisions on what elements we should incorporate, how we should adjust the project to handle those comments and questions. Okay, no new questions right now. Again, this entire meeting, including the question and answer session here, will be recorded and will be posted to the project webpage. So if you just Google Haddam DOT or DOT Haddam 60-160, you should be able to find that webpage, and the entire recording will be available. Okay, just got another question in. The question is, why not 2 lanes through the circles themselves, like in Salem? I'm going to turn that over to Joe Jazowicz. Joe, can you take that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's due to the fact based off of the traffic volumes and the circulatory traffic volumes that are seen at that roundabout compared to this one. So based off of guidance in Federal Highways NCHRP 672, we don't need that additional lane to process vehicles through the circulatory roadway, and our traffic analysis backs up those findings. So that's what we're seeing. That's the main difference between those two roundabouts.
Very good. Okay, I'm not seeing any new questions right now. Again, just point out that we do have a survey available. It's at this SurveyMonkey webpage shown on the screen. You know, if you have some free time, we'd appreciate it if you take that. And, yeah, and again, you know, feel free to get any comments, questions you have in the coming weeks. Send them into the DOT project email, and we'll get to the comments as we can. Also, the color plan is available on that project webpage. It's also, there should be a physical plan available at the town hall, a large scale plan, and the town itself also has some information on their website. So it's not looking like we're getting any new questions in at this point. I'm gonna just give it a few more moments to see if we get anything, and we'll start winding down. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else here, so we're gonna adjourn the meeting.
Joe, we just got another one.
Okay.
And we have another one that just came in through the project email.
Okay, so the one we just got is I want to thank you all for your time. We all are truly want to see an improvement with the ability to adapt to the future. As taxpayers and stakeholders in the area, that is our main concern. Great, thanks for the comment. We appreciate it. And yeah, you know, we're here to answer any comments, questions you have. That project email is available throughout the duration of the project. At any point in time, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, want to let us know anything going on, just shoot us a quick email. We'll also be happy to meet with anyone privately. We're happy to meet out in the field. Whatever we can do to help accommodate. Okay, next question we have is, first, I encourage a parking area near the falls that you mentioned during the presentation. However, I still think all the Tylerville stores may generate a number of pedestrians who would walk to the falls if a sidewalk is provided. Yeah, thanks for the question, the comment. Right now, as you can see, our color plan is not showing a sidewalk extending all the way to Southern Roundabout, but it is something we're strongly considering. You know, if the town and the locals think that there's going to be a draw to have pedestrians walking down there, it's certainly something we could look at incorporating. And certainly if we end up putting a kind of permanent parking facility in along that that west side of Saybrook Road, that would, you know, would make even more sense at that point to have some kind of sidewalk connecting the two roundabouts. So definitely something we'll be looking at as we move forward, and probably be coordinating closely with the town on that, and making sure we get that in if that's something that the town and the people want. So thank you. Okay, let me see. We just got another question, and it says, are the two circles designed such that they could be relatively easily expanded to 2 lanes without completely redesigning them in the future. And it would be difficult to turn those into two-lane facilities in the future. It would require additional right-of-way. I would think that the truck aprons and the center islands could remain, and probably a lot of the island structures could remain in place. But yeah, it would mean some significant impacts. And based on our data and our forecasting, we don't really see that it's likely that there's going to be a need to widen those out that much. These should function much better than the facilities you have in place today. I think once these are in place, people will realize how well they flow and function. Oftentimes when we put roundabouts in, they actually perform better than what our analysis shows. So I hope that answers the question. So Joe Jazzowitz, does it seem like you're getting any other questions in through the email or the phone?
It's not. We just want to remind those individuals on the call, if you can complete the survey, that we would greatly appreciate that. Other than that, it doesn't seem like we have any other comments coming in through the chat or other means.
All right, great. Yeah, it doesn't look like we're getting anything else right now. So I just want to thank everyone for participating in this public meeting. And please feel free to get any additional comments and questions into that project email we're shown here. And thanks again.